And she said, if you don't want to pay for dinner, that's fine. So, now, the other thing too, I don't know if men communicate this to women, or if women don't know about this, but men, we also take time getting ready for dates. I mean, a man who's going on a date often will get a haircut. He will shave, he will put on some moisturizer, he will put on deodorant, of course he'll put on perhaps aftershave or cologne, he will press his pants, he will press his shirt, he is going to make sure that his car is washed and clean on the inside. And so, yeah, a man is going to put time into getting ready for a date as well. This idea that women spend 2 hours and men spend 10 minutes is just not accurate. I mean, when I was a single guy, I would get ready for a date and I would do quite a lot to get ready for the date. I remember once when I was going to meet my wife on a date, my car was muddy and dirty because I'd taken it out into the country, and I didn't have time to take it through a car wash. So I tried to clean it using the squeegees at the gas station because I didn't want her to think that my car was messy and dirty. So I remember going around trying to clean my car with the squeegees at the gas station, and I wanted it to look good. I wanted it to look good. A man, in fact, if he thinks that the woman might come back to his place, will try to de-bachelor his place. And of course, it's been a while since I was a bachelor, but if I remember rightly, it's doing things like taking old coffee cups from the computer desk. It is taking the cushions to the balcony, thumping them out a little bit, so when the woman sits down, she doesn't get a cloud of dead bachelor skin rising around her nostrils. It might be even making the bed, should a special evening be conceived of. Conceived of. See how I played that? But he also will feel a strong urge to clean his kitchen. Now, for a bachelor to clean his kitchen is a big deal. It's not a small operation. For a bachelor to clean his kitchen means he first of all has to get the urge to clean his kitchen, and then he has to put on a different set of glasses, like a different set of eyeballs, because bachelors have this amazing ability, well, men have an amazing ability to not see things. I mean, this is a constant thing. My wife has the capacity to materialize things by reaching into the fridge. She just does it to mess with my head. I'll say, I can't find the milk. And I always try to answer it when she's at the polar opposite end of the house, because most of marriage is just yelling things you can't hear at the opposite ends of the house until one of you just ends up dying. So I will ask for something, and listen, I try to look for things in the fridge. I really do. But my concern is that my wife has tidied or moved things. She'll just cycle things through drawers, she'll cycle things through the freezer, she'll just cycle things everywhere. So if my wife has moved things, I have no chance. I have zero chance. I thought it would be more efficient if I put it in the bottom shelf of an old drawer in the attic. So I have no chance. None. So I will look a little bit. It's not half-hearted, it's quite passionate, but it's with a grim sense of Nietzschean hopelessness that I look for things, and I'm like, where's this, where's that, where's the other? And sometimes, I mean, to be fair, in the fridge, sometimes the smaller things are behind the larger things. My wife is fairly petite. In a lot of the photos, she's just standing behind me, but no one can tell. And so I'll look, and then I'll ask my wife where things are, and she has enormous patience. She really does. I think she either has patience or she's just completely given up. It's really hard to tell which is which. And she will come and she will reach, and then there's a little shimmer, like as she beams things in, like in Star Trek, right? She reaches behind something. I think she's a magician, and she's able to do this even without sleeves. I don't know, but she's a really good magician. So she'll have, let's say I'm looking for the ketchup. She will have the ketchup in her sleeve. She will reach into the bowels of the fridge and pull forth the ketchup that has just materialized. So a bachelor who wants to clean his kitchen, first of all, has to notice that the kitchen is dirty, which means putting on a different set of eyeballs. If you ever want to horrify your own life as a bachelor, imagine being a high-quality woman coming into your place. Because then the things that seem perfectly natural will be perfectly horrifying. And so for a bachelor to clean his place, he has to A, want to clean it, and B, he has to notice that it's dirty, and then C, he has to recognize that he has nothing with which to clean his place. Zero. Women come with a vast array of cleaning materials which can pretty much be assembled to create bombs, they can create helicopters, they can create rivers of fiery sludge. Women can, they just come with all of this stuff, and they also know how to use it and what to do. So you have to want to clean, you have to notice it's dirty, and then you have to figure out what you need to do to get the things to clean, and then you actually have to clean. And then you clean, and then after it's dried, you notice that there's little, it looks like little dust, it's little grit, and then you have to be like, oh my gosh, this needs to be rinsed. This is horrifying. And then, as you clean, in particular if you end up cleaning your bathroom, because heaven forbid that a woman comes to your place and deals with a bachelor bathroom, it's very much like the end of Aliens 2, when Ripley takes the flamethrower to the giant crustacean, or whatever it is. She will hover, like she will use her biceps and she will hover. Should she have to pee in a bachelor apartment, she will hover. And there will be sounds. There will be sounds that you really can't reproduce in any other circumstance. And then you have to clean, and then you have to realize that you may have left cleaning too long because there are things you cannot clean. There are things, bachelor essence has seeped into the ring around the bathtub, unmentionable places in the toilet. You can't. You can't. And then the wild thought occurs to you that perhaps you can just redo the bathroom before the date. Just put in a new toilet, a new tub, you name it, right? But you do your best. So, yeah, we men do put a lot of work into dating. It's just that work is not really appreciated by the women, because the amount of work it takes to get even minimal standards of survivability in a bachelor apartment is so high that women are just like, well, I guess it's a little clean. Whereas for the bachelor, like, that's been 3 days of cleaning and crying and using your tears to help clean. Because the salt, I think, can be helpful. I'm not an expert in these things. But so yes, men do put a fair amount of work into a date. And the other thing too is that the idea that getting ready for a date for a woman equals paying for the date for a man is saying that the man has to buy the woman's time. The man has to buy the woman's time. I say, yes, but the woman says, but you are paying, I have to pay for all of my makeup. I have to pay for my shoes, I have to pay for my this, I have to pay for my that. And this, I mean, it's a big question of whether women use makeup for men or whether women use makeup for themselves or for other women and so on. And men don't have the ability to use makeup. I mean, some men will dye their hair, which I think is kind of cheesy. There's this picture of George Clooney out there at the moment with his hair dyed, and it just looks absolutely terrible. Old face, young hair is a weird combination. It looks like it does not look like a robust older man. It looks like a very ill younger man. That's all it looks like. So if everyone pays their own way, And she didn't say what Giovanni showed up. What did she say again? Let me just see here what she said she was getting together with. She said, and 46 as well, right? 46. Now, the traditional reason why men paid for dates in the past was that a woman was financially dependent upon a man. I mean, throughout her evolution, like why do men pay for dates? Why is that even a thing? Why is that a tradition? Because the man needs to show his generosity. Why does the man need to show his generosity? He needs to show his generosity because women would spend the next 60 years, so 20 to 80, the women would spend the next 60 years raising their children, running the household, raising the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren, and doing charity work, doing community work, doing church work, and so on. There's an old saying about what do German women really want? Church, kitchen, children. Kunde, Kitchen. There's something in German that I can't remember how it goes. And that was just evolution, right? So women had to rely upon a man to pay the bills, because the amount of time it takes to raise a bunch of kittens, a bunch of children, especially at a time of 50% infant mortality. And here's the thing too. I mean, that's 50% infant mortality, and it's not like the other 50% are not getting sick. I remember my mother, when I was a little kid, my mother would have, I don't know, she'd have these funny people coming over. Of course, everyone in my mom's life was kind of a little off, a little odd for the most part. But she would have these hippies come over from Germany. You know, big beards and beads and weird stories about other dimensions. And my mother would sometimes spend an hour. I remember timing it once, like looking at the clock. My mother would spend an hour, or sometimes even more, going through the stories of my brother and I's illnesses. Now, I mean, we weren't particularly ill. I didn't have any sort of Robert Louis Stevenson sit in bed for a year kind of stuff, but there was a lot of nursing. There's a lot of illness in kids. Of course, you've got a relatively new immune system, and you're playing around with other kids, you're eating a lot of dirt, all of this kind of stuff, right? So when we say 50% infant mortality, it's not like the rest of the kids were robust. They're constantly getting sick, and you don't know if they're going to die, and all of that. It's a lot of grieving, a lot of burying. This is one of the reasons why religion was stronger, because death was omnipresent. Now death has been shuffled off to nursing homes and weird bullying pods in medically assisted induced deaths countries. So women would be completely dependent upon the productivity and generosity of a man. And one nightmare for a woman would be to, of course, get married to and start having children with a man who either A, was unproductive, or B, was stingy. And in the same way, of course, the fear for a man was getting together with a woman who was maybe infertile, or also was a spendthrift, or not good at taking care of children, not patient, and not a good nurse and a comforter to children, and so on. So, on a date, a woman would enhance her fertility markers. All makeup is there to enhance fertility markers. I won't sort of get into the whys and wherefores. You can look this stuff up if you want, but makeup is there to enhance fertility markers and to simulate ovulation. So the man is getting fertility. And what is the woman getting? Well, the woman needs to get a man who is productive and generous. So he has excess resources, because if he doesn't have any excess resources, he can't afford a family. When you have a wife and kids, 90% of your income goes to the wife and children. That's just the way of the world. There's nothing wrong with it. That's one of the reasons why men tend to be so ferociously productive, is that those men who weren't ferociously productive either weren't chosen in the dating pool or their children didn't last very long because they weren't able to provide them with enough food for them to fight off infections and disease. So the man is showing that he has excess resources, and the man is showing that he's willing to transfer those excess resources to a fertile woman. That's the deal. That's why women wear makeup, and that's why men pay for dates. Now, there's nothing wrong with that tradition. There's nothing wrong with that tradition, but the weird thing about it is 52 and, what was she, 46 or 47 or something like that. Her eggs are about as fresh as 20-day-old bread or milk left in the sun. So for her to put on fertility markers, such as makeup, and for him to show that he's willing to transfer resources to a fertile woman is kind of ridiculous. It really is kind of ridiculous. Every now and then I will threaten my daughter that I will, I'm a peaceful parent, for sure, so I don't raise my voices. I don't raise my voice. I certainly don't hit, don't insult, don't call her names, anything like that. But if I really do want to get my way, I will threaten my daughter that I will learn a K-pop TikTok dance and just do it to the camera. This fills her, again, with the aforementioned existential H.P. Lovecraft Nietzschean dread and horror that her father would learn some K-pop demon hunters TikTok dance and just actually do it. Horrifying. Horrifying, and I agree, it would be horrifying. I'm not sure that I will ever hate the world enough to inflict that level of horror on the world. Obviously, I've come close. I think we all have at some point or another. But it would be age inappropriate. You know, it's like I remember when my wife and I, we love to dance, and she's a killer dancer. She got moves like a waterfall in a high wind. She flows, she ebbs, she spins upside down on the pole. Wait, I may be going a little bit far here. Just a tiny bit. Just a tiny bit. She's not upside down. So, anyway, I remember the one time, I don't know, we were in our 30s, and we went to the club. Now, I used to love going to the club as a teenager, and doing my older disco dancing. I even learned the moonwalk. Oh, yeah, it's true. Only white people have been to the moon, and it was a very white moonwalk. And yeah, we were in the club, and we're just looking around, and it's like, yeah, we're past this. Now, I mean, we'll still go to jazz clubs and sort of that kind of stuff and dance there, but yeah, we don't, we were post-club. We were post-club. And so, for a woman of 46 saying, well, I need to put on my fertility markers and the man needs to demonstrate his generosity because we're going to have 8 kids together and he needs to know that I'm fertile and I need to know that he's got resources that he's willing to transfer to me and be generous. I mean, it's so age inappropriate. I can't even tell you. And it is really one of the saddest things to me. And you see it everywhere. This is George Clooney with his hair dye, or whatever it is, right? You see this kind of everywhere. It is a very sad thing when people are grimly resisting the passage of time and not acknowledging aging as a whole. It's a very sad thing. It's a very sad thing. So, of course, the general idea and goal is to embrace and accept that you're aging. And this sort of cutesy stuff where, you know, you've got to pay for me on the dates and so on. It's like, he's divorced, he's got grown kids, you're 46, can't have kids. And the idea as well that a man who is professionally successful needs to impress a woman is, to me, A, funny, and B, a little ridiculous. I mean, why would he need to impress her? He's already successful. He's got good qualities of character, and he has an income and morals and honesty and virtue. He's upfront, he's direct, doesn't play games. So the idea that he would also need to further impress her is interesting to me. I don't quite get why. Like, I understand that a man, I don't know, I'm trying to think sort of back, boys, going back a ways now, right? So 40 years ago I was 19 years old, and I can understand that other than being a decent looking young dude, I can understand that I would need to work to impress a woman. I can totally get that. I can totally get that. So, this is one of the reasons why men develop a sense of humor. A couple of reasons. Men develop a sense of humor because it's hard to tell how old a woman is if she's not laughing. Like, if you can get a woman to spontaneously laugh, then it's a lot easier to tell how old she is. And, of course, when we evolved, it wasn't like there were birth certificates and so on. A woman faking her age was a big problem. So you would learn how to make a woman laugh so that you could find out how old she was. And, I mean, that's a minor aspect of it, but of course it's to show intelligence, it's to show a good nature. And, you know, women throughout history, women had to deal with them, and men as well, but it was a bit more direct for women. Women had to deal with a lot of suffering. A lot of suffering. A lot of suffering. I mean, you know, this sort of meme. It was Hillary Clinton, I think, who said that women suffer the most in war. And of course the men are like, well, we got killed. And it's true, of course. But when you're dead, your suffering is over. Those who grieve on after you have to live with the loss for years and years and years. I mean, sometimes I remember one woman, it's always stuck in my head, one woman talking about, she was old, and she talked about a man that she married in World War I. The men going to the front, the women would marry them in part to get survivor benefits, to get widow's benefits. And also, maybe to get a kid out of it. And she married this young man, he went off. They spent like 2 or 3 weeks together, he went off and got killed on the Western Front in World War I. And I remember when she was old, she was saying that she barely remembered what he looked like. He just seemed like this terribly nice young man she spent a few weeks with in 1915. So women suffer a lot, and their suffering continues. They tend to live longer than men, and throughout most of human history, the suffering that they went through was enormous, prodigious. And so you need a man who's going to help you laugh when you carry the sorrows and burdens of being a woman. And just to, you know, for the nitpickers, of course I understand men suffer as well, blah, 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 but there's a special suffering that women go through. Women have to incredibly strongly bond with children in order for those babies to survive, and they lose half of them. That's rough. And of course the men go through their sorrows as well, but it's not quite the same as having carried the baby in your body and breastfeeding. I mean, you become one flesh when the baby is born. You're one flesh before, and it stays that way for a year or two afterwards. Developing a sense of humor, knowing how to make women laugh, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. That's why there tend to be more male comedians than female comedians. Men have to be themselves plus. Just for women, like, so you understand this, it's really important to understand. It's really important to understand what has shaped either sex. So I had a t-shirt when I was a kid. Vive la différence, right? Vive la différence. Celebrate the differences between men and women. So men have to be men plus. I mean, in the dating world, men have to be men plus resources. And a reasonably good nature. They have to be assertive without being aggressive. They have to have enough dominant traits to get resources, wrestle them from other men, but not so many dominant traits that they're abusive at home. They have to be funny, but not frivolous. You have to be able to make the woman laugh, but not be a goofy clown. Otherwise, the woman's going to lose respect. You have to be fierce out there in the world and loving at home. You have to be deferential to the woman, open doors for her, and defer to her. But you cannot be a simp. You cannot just put her in charge and rush around like a slave, obeying her every whim, or she'll lose respect for you. You have to be generous. You have to have generosity as a trait, but really only for her. You also cannot be generous to your shiftless, lazy brothers-in-law who can't seem to get a job. You better not give those resources away. You have to be fierce and authoritarian in disciplining the children, but you cannot be fierce and authoritarian with your wife. I mean, it's complicated. It's complicated. And of course, if you pick the wrong type of woman, the complainer will leach the balls off your body and the bone marrow from your system, because the complaining woman will complain if you don't work hard enough because there aren't enough resources. And if there are enough resources, she will complain that you work too much. Because the woman's fantasy, which arises, of course, out of aristocracy, is that you have resources without actually having to work for them. Because having resources is great, but having to work for them means that she has to spend more time with the kids and less time with you. So a man has to be a lot. A woman, when she's young, just has to be. For the most part. Again, tons of exceptions. These are just general trends. A man has to be himself plus a wide variety of tough-to-balance attributes and resources and stability and generosity. The man also has to be attractive to a lot of women, but only attracted to her. One. Right. Well, that's tricky. The man has to stay loyal to the woman, even though the man's attractiveness goes up enormously as he ages. Because as he ages, he has more resources, more skill, more stature, he's higher up in the hierarchy. So the man has to stay loyal throughout his entire life, even though he becomes more and more attractive to other women as he ages. I mean, within certain limits, obviously. I'm not saying a 90-year-old guy to anyone other than the former Anna Nicole Smith. So it's tricky. And so men have to be themselves plus guitar. They have to be themselves plus money. They have to be themselves plus muscles. They have to be themselves plus really funny. They have to be themselves plus whatever, right? And this is the clavicular extension of looks maxing that is going on in the world at the moment. You can't just be yourself. You have to be yourself. And what? Like a liposuction, a chiseled jaw that has evolved from hitting it with a hammer, hair transplants, 3 hours a day at the gym. You have to be yourself. Plus, now what do women have to be? Well, do women have to be really funny? Nope. Do women have to be great storytellers? Nope. Do women have to play a musical instrument? Nope. Do women have to have big muscles? Nope. In fact, that's kind of a negative for most men. I mean, toned, whatever, reasonably fit, sure, but not a lot. Like the ideal male body is 3 hours a day in the gym, crazy strict eating standards, and so on. A woman's reasonably ideal body is just don't overeat, for the most part. Do women have to be big money makers? Nope. Nope. Do women have to be great conversationalists? I mean, I think for a long marriage is long these days, we live forever, we're like ghouls, with the Icarus of eternity running through our veins. But she doesn't, for dating, she doesn't have to be. Like, what does she have to be? Pretty and pleasant. And the pleasant stuff is kind of optional, because there's a lot of very unpleasant women who seem to get a lot of dates. A woman just has to be young and herself. Because the value that she has is not earned, it is baked in. The value that women have when they're young is automatic. Because it is the fertility that they are born with, the millions of eggs that they are born with. The ability to grow a human being after a mere 3 hours of manly sexual activity. Her value is baked in. Now, she can enhance her values and make up about, I get all of that, but the value is baked in. I mean, if a young man has the choice between a woman of 20 who spends an hour getting ready and a woman of 80 who spends an hour getting ready, well, we know, right? So it's not the getting ready that makes the difference. It's the youth and the fertility. Women can be human beings. Men have to be human doings. We have to do stuff. We have to get out there in the world. We have to carve out a niche. We have to provide resources. We have to be funny and assertive and all of these qualities of character. And we have to be honest. And we have to be generous, but not too generous. We have to be hardworking, but not workaholics. We have to be tough out in the world, but sensitive and emotionally available at home. And, you know, this is not any complaints. This is the tightrope that men have to walk. That women don't really sympathize with, for the most part. Women have the natural aristocracy of youth. That women are in demand when they're young through the natural value of youth, beauty, and fertility. This is not a complaint. To complain about reality is like getting up every morning annoyed that there's still gravity. Yep. Good thing, too. Otherwise, we'd all be flying around the asteroid belt. Our heads having exploded for the lack of pressure. When women are young and men are young, women are the aristocracy and men are the serfs. This is not a complaint. It's just what it is. Men have to work quite hard to get female attention. Now, these days, men don't seem to want to work very hard to get female attention, for whatever reason. We can sort of go into that another time. But men are all just contacting women, from what I've heard. WYD. Hey, what you do? Where you from? How old are you? What's up? What's new? Or as one young woman memorably told me, what you drinking? That's the big Cyrano de Bergerac line of poetry that women can expect to enjoy these days. What you drinking, what you doing, where you from, how old are you? You come here often. What's up? The verbal pyrotechnics of modern wooing do not exist. And so, if you're in demand, simply for existing, there are massive numbers of skills that you do not develop, and should not develop. What's the point? If you inherit $10 million, does it make much sense to have a paper route when you're 12? Or be like John F. Kennedy Jr. back in the day. Took him like, what, 4 tries to pass the bar? The hunk flunks were the headlines. You know, good-looking, athletic, constantly casting about for a purpose. Created this magazine called George. Cindy Crawford as George Washington on the cover. Ooh, so edgy. Couldn't really make it work. Just a bunch of make-work, rich boy nonsense. And then had a pretty terrible marriage to Carolyn Bessette, screaming at each other in the park. Ends up dying in a stupid plane crash while going up against Hillary Clinton. Do I have that one politically? Just a coincidence. Because he was trying to fly a plane through the dark and the fog, instruments only, with a shattered ankle. Completely stupid. And if I had to guess regarding that, just by the by, I find the story quite interesting. If I had to guess by the by, he was in a highly contentious relationship with his wife. Her sister was on the plane too, I think. He was in a highly contentious relationship with his wife. And I can virtually guarantee you that the reason they all died, the 3 of them, on the plane, on the way to Martha's Vineyard, was because his wife said to him,